Okay, excellent. Well, with that, and we may have a few other guys joining in, James, but for the most part, this is the group in Quebec City. We're, again, really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through and give us an overview of StackStorm. Appreciate you kind of working with the agenda we kind of set forward. Again, an informal session, so we are French Canadian, which equates to we will give you some perspective, some opinions, and some feedback, and it's always interactive. So the perspective, that's how it'll run. Salut Norm. Norm just joined us also in Montreal. So with that, guys, what we will do from a logistics perspective, and for you also, Norm, we may mute our cameras. So if there's any kind of bandwidth lagging and stuff, we may mute the video and the audio portion to give James the show. So James Fryman, we got introduced to James via Evan and Dimitri, some of the co-founders, and Evan spoke very highly about, here's the guy, he can definitely walk you through, give you an overview. So we appreciate you again, James, taking your time over lunch here for walking us through and giving us some perspective on StackStorm.
Absolutely.
I've shared with both Evan and James the fact that we have installed StackStorm in-house. A couple of the guys have been working with it and testing it. So the experience within the group, some have a little bit of hands-on, for some it's net new. But at the end of the day, we are looking at different opportunities and how and where this may apply in some of our projects. So that's part of the excitement for learning more about it. Also, there's a shout out for Christos for making the link. So when we were at the Cassandra Summit, speaking with Christos, he said, hey, you got to talk to these guys. He obviously did a session about StackStorm and all the how it saved them through some of the Amazon issues they were having. So that contextually, Christos is the link, and we definitely need to thank him again for this, because there's some pretty exciting pieces that can come from it. So all that to say, that's it for me. James, let's take the next 30 to 45 minutes. Appreciate the overview, appreciate the context with some use cases, and then from a technology perspective and a Q&A perspective, we'll definitely open up the floor, and we'll keep it informal but educational.
Absolutely, perfect. Well, thanks for the introduction. Just real quick, my name's James Fryman. I have worked in the past at GitHub, Puppet Labs, my own consulting company, doing and building this thing that I'm going to show you, StackStorm. Automation is really important to me, and it's the missing piece, right? We've been abstracting for quite some time from different layers, and we got to figure out where business logic goes. Well, I think we're there now, and this tool that we've got, StackStorm, is pretty good. And so I hope to show you some of that, and definitely, if you got questions as we go through, stop me, shout out, throw tomatoes at me, whatever the right thing to do is, just shout out. So let me see if I can share my screen here now. Screen share. All right. Hopefully, let's see Rod's face there.
Yeah, we see it.
All right. So I'm just going to start real quick at the architecture, just so everybody kind of knows what's going on before we dive deep into it, because it makes sense. Just from a conceptual perspective, we're an event-driven automation system. In so many words, we take events coming from different tools, and those tools can be internal tools, external tools. We don't care. It could have an API, it could have a command line interface. If you can send some sort of computer message to it that does not involve a human clicking on it, we can interface with it. And we can do that with our StackStorm sensors. And the sensors can be either push or pull based. So we can either go actively pull for stuff, or we can receive events as they get pushed out from different tools. And each one of these sensors can be basically emits a trigger into our system. So if the event comes through, it gets transformed into a trigger, and those triggers get processed by the rules engine. And the rules engine is where the if this then that business processing happens, right? If I get an alert from my logging system, go take these actions. If I get a CPU alert, go take these actions, right? This is where that's going to happen in the rules engine. And then based on the execution of a rules engine, we will go figure out what to go do next. And that next can be an action or a series of actions. And that gets executed by our workers. Internally, StackStorm does not have any internal knowledge or difference of a single action versus a workflow. They're the same to us. So we can execute either or nested within, so nested workflows within workflows. And we'll talk about what those look like as well after a little bit. But those workflows interact with the different packs that we have, and those packs have different integrations, which are usually outbound integrations, where they go make some call to something or send some information or something along those lines, which in turn interfaces back with the tools that we were using, which could trigger additional events, and so on and so forth. The giant cyclic loop, right? It's a big event-driven automation system. The key things I just want to point out here real quick before we dig in is, we've got these areas of responsibility segmented: a sensor, a rules engine, workers. All of these are logical services that are scalable on their own independently. So, when we talk about folks and they ask us how we scale, we actually have not hit bounds of processing yet, because whenever we hit vertical bounds of a given server, we can just scale out horizontally because we're taking advantage of message queuing. RabbitMQ on the back end, and every subsystem communicates with each other via the message queue. So anytime we run into bottlenecks at a sensor layer, at the rules engine layer, or even at the worker layer, it's just as simple as adding additional workers to the queue and monitoring and watching your processing load. So I think that's really powerful and important as we start to get into some of the concepts about the separation and delegation of duties, right? So it helps you out with upgrading and planning and capacity forecasting, and as well as gives you the ability to make changes on the fly, right? If I've got different domains of responsibility, it's easier to make smaller adjustments to different subsystems as necessary. So you don't have this big thing you're worried about. I can make changes to how I'm processing incoming events in my sensors, or I can make changes to how I process outgoing events via my workers. And you can even get deeper with things like, because I have workflow, I can separate actual business logic from the actions that get executed. And I'll talk about that in a second as well. So that's the kind of overall architecture and layout of StackStorm. I kind of want to just stop there real quick and see if anybody has any questions just off the top. Make sure I'm still being heard. And it cut out.
No, you're definitely still on.
Excellent.
All right, hold on. Hey, James.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, a couple of questions right off the bat. Maybe can you talk about in what space do you operate? Do you compare to Ansible, Puppet, or those kind of things? And maybe talk about a bit about your clients.
Sure.
One in particular.
Absolutely. So our main focus is around automated troubleshooting and remediation. So the platform itself is generic enough, we can plug into anything. And we actually do have what we call for a lot of different systems. That includes Puppet, Ansible, Chef, Salt, as well as different hook-ins to different other systems. Let me pull up this repo here. Under stackstorm.com/st2contrib, and we have everything from, let's see, should have a big README here. Ansible, AWS, we have a lot of provisioner services, we have source control management tools, we have integrations with CI tools like Circle CI and Jenkins, some application management tools like DripStat, and what is the other one we have? I'm going to look at it and remember the name and feel silly. Email, FireEye. So we're kind of, in terms of applications, we are integrating specifically with what we would think of as application or development apps focused along the delivery pipeline and the remediation of that delivery pipeline. So, I'll kind of get into those use cases a little bit, but, we're kind of touching on fringes of places like IoT as well, where in addition to receiving logical alerts from my systems in terms of CPU usage or memory usage, we're also receiving alerts from temperature gauges in a data center that says when rack or row gets too hot, initiate vMotion event from rack A to rack B. And so your DR plans become a little bit more interesting in that you can actually have that remediation of move my machines to safe places, virtual disk storage, however you need to do it, before or as you're having events, and decrease your time to restore because you're not waiting for humans to get on the line, right? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Can you just for making it a bit more intriguing, talk about Netflix a bit.
Yeah, so Netflix uses us in two ways. So they have I actually don't have their architecture diagram. If I can get it pulled up, I will. But what they do is they actually leverage the SQS sensor. So they're a big Amazon shop, right? And so they're going to interface everything with Amazon. And so they use our AWS pack. And inside the AWS pack, they're leveraging SQS events that they come from all of their different activities in sensors. So this sensor just emits different triggers into the system based on the region, based on the availability zone, and based on the application where the event's coming from. And based on those rules, they use it for two different use cases. The first use case is the Simian army. I was telling Rod as we were kind of prepping for the meeting earlier. Their Simian army, the machine or machinery responsible for going out and just thrashing their systems to test their resiliency, used to be homegrown scripts, and now it's StackStorm. So there are actually rules in there that will go and get servers to go destroy on a per node, per cluster, per rack, per data center, per regions area. So their Simian army is on there, if not, is being powered by, if not fully powered by StackStorm at this point. On the other end, they also work for us with automated troubleshooting and remediation. So this is actually one of our really big use case requirements where, say I have a given rule, okay, and I'm going to pull up one of our operational servers here. This is the ST2Ops001. So this thing actually has a backstop rule here that says when I get rules from my monitoring, go do X. And so now what they're doing is they're getting the events of I had a cluster fail, I had a node fail, I had a server fail, and they're kicking off workflows that then in turn just go off and spin up additional servers. So they've got workflows that are responsible for provisioning, destroying, scaling up, scaling down, and then as the different events come in and they correlate and aggregate them into StackStorm, we're the actual human response to either inform them, which could be things like let them know in Slack or wherever their chat channel is that something has occurred. So bringing information to them in into a central and transparent place, or even going the next step and just fixing it. So we have a lot of customers, in addition to Netflix, use the same pattern where they'll have many rules for a given event, and they'll start to move their playbooks, if you will, their manual playbooks from documents into YAML rules, right? I'm going to just pull this up so you can have an idea of what it looks like here. Right? But a rule is just basic event that says, hey, here's something comes in, here's what I'm looking for based on the trigger, and here's the action I want to take on it. And with a combination of those things, they're keeping their infrastructure up. And the other folks also will do things like as they're bringing this into an organizational change, like there's a lot of angst that goes into putting in a system like this. Oh, I don't want the system to just automatically fix things. I don't know. I don't trust it. And so in those cases, we'll actually work with folks to just be more passive in nature, where instead of going and actively fixing the thing, we'll work with them to put information into a ticketing system of theirs, GitHub, Jira, whatever, so that as the events fire, the system will actually go and do diagnostic information for them. Go run netstat, go run vmstat, go run CPU, go get free memory, go do some basic diagnostic information and bring that into the issue. And so over time, that also builds in Amber's trust, because they see that every time this thing executes, it does the same thing. It gets the information. It gets the information. And now I'm going to talk about, there's another piece I'll talk about shortly, ChatOps, that also helps bridge that gap. But that's the major use case that we see Netflix and others using us for, is tons of rules that dictate their small actions, the action being, here are the activities I do, spin up, spin down, build load balancer, destroy load balancer, those activities, and wiring them together with the rules to take out the human and let the computers just automatically rebuild themselves when failures occur. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Great question. All right. Well, I guess we're just kind of jumping around. That's great too. So So I'm actually, here I've got a rule, right? And I want to kind of talk a little bit about the user interface, because this is important too. One of the big things we care about is approachability of this stuff. So in a given, oh, yes, I am fine with that. Thank you. So here in our action library, we call it, we have different packs that we've installed, and these packs can have different varying actions based on the tool that we're using, and they take different input that's associated with it. Some take very simple commands, I only take one thing. Others will take entire huge chunks of data that are associated with themselves. For example, create VM. In this particular one, we'll take a bunch of things like what key do you want to use, what DNS name do you want to use, what host name. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up and why I think this is important to do is because what we're trying to do is enable folks to be productive, right? With this tool set, we can now create a clear separation between the actions that get executed, right, the one thing, and the workflows that get that actually do business processing. So as a action author, right, as the subject matter expert, teams will be looking to you to build and basically codify the knowledge that is important to you, right? You're the monitoring expert, great. How do I interface best with your monitoring system? How do I get information out of it, and how does it tell me information about what's going on? Likewise, it could be SQL, could be your provisioner with Packer, could be even marketing. So we even have some use cases where we're using for non-business purposes. But each of these are written in single actions and can be written in any language, right? So if I click on this here, I can see that any of these runner types, so runner type could be a Python runner, it could be a remote shell command executed, it could be a remote web call. Each of these runners is defined, and we can actually look and see at the code in the UI and see what's going on. So this is a really good admin interface. But the reason really I'm showing it to you is that we enforce or encourage metadata at every layer here. And these provide safe guidelines for encouraging folks on what to fill in and how to fill it out. So this is about enabling. The action themselves may have tons of options available to them, but the workflow usually has same defaults associated with them. So that a user who doesn't know how to consume or provision a server, they can just go execute a workflow and get servers as a result of it. So they're happy, right? So they get to consume these pre-built Lego blocks that you're building for them. Likewise, we also have the concept of the workflow. If I can find a workflow here, Mistral V2, do I have this on here? Look for an action here. Pardon me for a moment. What I want to show you is I want to show you the StackStorm flow system. And what Flow allows you to do is it actually graphical workflow editor, so that our goal is that we make this available to anybody. So anybody who can come in here and notice that we have actions available to them and that give them same defaults with how to interact with the system should be able to create any workflow, drag and drop these elements. It's not on this server either. I am not doing well on that one. Drag and drop the elements and create their own workflow, right? So these workflows that are created are actually modeled in YAML. Everything's modeled in YAML. So I click on Action Chain, and we can see what these workflows look like. And so as a consumer of these actions, I can now chain these things together and to ultimately do these things that I care about. Now, the same curators of code, the same curators of these actions, also are trying to create interfaces for users to interact with. And we see customers doing this in one of two ways. The first way is our entire platform has APIs associated with it. All of the calls that you see here, from everything from gathering history to viewing information about tasks to getting action output to viewing rules, is all API based. The web client uses API, the command line client uses API, and so we've got customers who are actually going to companies and pitching white box solutions to them. Or we've got customers that are building a custom portal in their organization that's catered to their workflow. So maybe they've got styling or an engine that they already care about, but we take the back end and we're responsible for actually executing tasks. So we got one client that's building that's a managed service provider that's building a portal that lets them have self-service for their users, provision server, allocate disk, whatever, with their front end. The second way that we see people interact with us is actually via ChatOps. And ChatOps is kind of is a new and exciting way that I was exposed to work when I was at GitHub, in that you move the work that you're doing, these workflows themselves, into the context of chat. And so what that allows you to do is, if I come over here to my chat room here, I should be able to, yeah, I have problems with that. Good for you. I should be able to help. I should be able to do things in my my chat. So, for example, if I want to do pack development, pack provision, I have a pack command here, so I can do pack deploy, and Hue is just for fun and for silliness. But using this very simple ability, the command to deploy this pack is less than 4 lines of actual code. I can pull that up here in a second. But using ChatOps like this, it allows me to create very simple interfaces that are exposed to users, that they can see in real time the status of how work gets done. So a lot of times what people do is they'll get together in a chat room like this and they'll talk about, hey, here are the things we're working on. Here are the things we need to go do. And then they'll detach and you'll assign tasks to each other and you'll go off, you'll go do work, and then you get back together, hold status meetings, circle back up, resync, and then go off and do it again. In these worlds, we see folks who are using ChatOps to get passive information about things that are going on, to do things like bridge their status meetings. So in a status meeting, instead of asking for updates from everybody, they actually ask the system for real-time updates. What is the status of server X? What is the status of server Y? And they can ask that, and it will actually give them a response in turn. Likewise, I need to go provision servers. Well, why not just do that right here? And so we've got provision commands available to us. We've got build commands that are available to us where we're pushing images up. Here's another use case that's really important to us. We've got this publish role. So we do Puppet development here in-house for our main pack to help folks install StackStorm. Well, our team is not a set of Puppet experts. They can work on Puppet. They're not afraid of Puppet. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty of actually doing releases of things in Puppet, it's not their responsibility. It's not their domain of knowledge. And rightly so, I don't know if it should be. In this case, what's been done is we've made commands available to the users. And so our development team can make modifications to Puppet, test it once they get a good CI build, and actually do the deployment on their own, which is just a combination of ChatOps alias and workflows. So there's a lot of opportunities that we see for teams building these tie-ins between how users interface with it. But the big push is we've got enough modularity in the system that we provide the power to the admins, to the action authors to write the actions. We provide enough user friendliness with the flow GUI to allow anybody to author workflows. And then we apply ChatOps, which allows anybody to expose these workflows that they offer into the common chat room. And the combination of these 3 things together, we see helps with uptake and helps with creativity, because you see the feedback loop of iteration decreases tremendously. People work on the things at the same time. So you notice here's our command, our command completed. So we're good. And everybody can see that now. They can see that the command succeeded, and they go off and go do things. Let me just stop there for a second, see if there's any questions.
Yeah, James.
Yeah.
It's me again. You were talking about workflows. Maybe
yes.
It's time to showcase the visual editor with the syncing with the YAML definition.
Yep, I actually have been trying to pull it up as we've been talking, and I'm not having good luck here. I can show you some workflow themselves in the YAML, but my test machine that normally has it up does not seem to be working. If you could just give me a second. Do you have another question that you can ask me while I work on that?
Yeah, I have one. So typically, what's the type of deployment of this? Is this you offer software as a service on specific deployment for? I'm assuming that some customers have their own deployment, or what's the typical deployment of this, and who typically in the organization who will manage the StackStorm, and how reliable is it itself?
Let's see if I can unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
That's
that's great.
questions here.
No, that's great. Let me just start with who maintains it, right? Usually an ops team maintains it, right? The core component architecture of it is going to include some amount of, let's see if I can pull this back up. There's a MongoDB instance. Everything is written in Python. So you may have application folks that are interested in helping with that, but for the most part, it's going to be about keeping the systems up themselves, right? From what we've seen from a resiliency perspective or kind of uptime perspective, is because we've got individual systems. If we have failures, they're not failures of the system as a whole. They're failures of specific subsystems. So, for example, my AWS Web Sensor has a problem. It's going to bail out. But because that fails doesn't stop the rest of the system from processing. So your failures are going to be isolated and limited to specific domains, which allows you to kind of plan a little bit differently for how you want to do changes or whatnot. And then likewise, we've also got patterns we work with folks where, for example, if I want to make changes, I can actually do A/B kind of testing, where I can put one new server or sets of servers with new sensors on them, spin them up with new code, and then at one point turn one set of sensors off on the message bus and the other set on, right? So the resiliency is choose your own adventure, if you will, right? Like there are plenty of ways to do this, and we've got patterns to help out, help design those, and once we've kind of implemented to other companies. I think that was all. Go ahead, yeah.
Do you offer it also as a managed SaaS offering? Can you give me? Okay.
Yeah, that was the last question. So no, we do not at this point. So currently it is only on-prem, and we're working on a SaaS offering around analytics. So that would include, so the system itself is relatively stateless. The only data that gets stored is audit and history data. And we're working on a SaaS service that will allow you to push that upstream for analytics purposes. But otherwise, there's not really much data that gets stored that isn't already infrastructure as code in YAML files documented somewhere.
James, one thing I found interesting was the community around StackStorm. So maybe you could talk about the way actions are just scripts shared through Git by the community.
Yeah, I think that's real important too, right? So we have, let's see if
Oops.
James, we lost you.
okay.
Okay, you're back.
I'm back? Okay, hold on. st2web001. All right, let me actually see if I can get this flow thing working here real quick. Give me a moment. st2web. That does not seem to be working. We'll keep working on that in the background. In the meantime, let's get the screen sharing back going. We'll come to our desktop. All right, so back to see the screen again?
Yeah,
we can see it.
So in action is just a set of metadata, right? So here in the community, here's our, first of all, let me back up a little bit, right? So we have our StackStorm community pack. This is available on GitHub, and this actually runs the community Hubot instance and the community rule set. So this includes things like creating issues in our issue tracker, which is GitHub. So in this case, if a user, we're talking about something in chat, we can take this ChatOps alias that's been created here and create an issue directly from chat. So that allows us to, just kind of communicate and collaborate and file issues in real time together. So that's really cool. But the power there becomes when we use this kind of self-deploy, if you will. So the packs pack has the ability to deploy a pack. I know that sounds convoluted. The packs pack has the ability to deploy a pack. So in the ST2 community, what we do is we can actually iterate on commands, deploy them in chat, and have them available in real time. And so, like in this case right here, we've got the ability for the community to search through our knowledge base. So as they're talking about things or need some help with the community, the bot can actually answer questions for them in a lot of cases when they ask, hey, what's in the KB related to this thing? And it's modeled in a bunch of different ways so that as people ask for it in sort of natural language, it will just come to them, right? And we see this really a lot with a lot of communities, right? We have a pretty big fledgling community now. I know we've got like 500 plus people signed on, with something on average of anywhere between 80 and 100 people on the chat most of the time. And that's because of this kind of collaboration here, where folks can submit a pull request, and as soon as they submit a pull request, this gets pushed into production, and they get notifications of new releases when they come out. This is how we do our automatic invites to our Slack channel, and so once these are made available to folks, they'll just join you in these chat rooms, and it just becomes so easy for them to collaborate and iterate. Does that answer your question?
Maybe you could talk about, you've talked about the chat integration, but what about the actions?
Yeah.
So what's the flow for instance, if I create a new type of action and I'd like to share it with the community and have it available, what would it be like?
Cool. Well, why don't let's just do that real quick, I guess. Let me see if I got a server I can actually do some things on. I know I've got this server. This is my test server here. So I'm going to pull up a new thing here, and next. All right. So I have an alias here. Sorry, just pull up here. Action, readme. I have a readme, and let's say that readme is like this. A new file. Let's call this new action. Okay, so at this point, I'm just kind of copy and pasting some boilerplate code. I'm here. And I want to say I need the ability to do something simple, like my cool new code that just shows the date, right? I know that's kind of lame, but it'll be simple enough for this purposes. But this could be a script. This could be anything. So I'm actually going to say, let's do and this is going to be our cool. And I'm going to give it an entry point of date.sh. So in this case, I'm just going to assume that there's a command or shell script or in my pack directory as well. In fact, let's make it a little bit more clear, and let's just say scripts. Okay. So now in this, the system is going to be expecting a new file in this pack directory, scripts date.sh, and it's going to run it locally. Okay, so let's create a new file. Scripts and date.sh. This is all it is. And this could be anything. These could be Bash, Java, Ruby, Node, whatever. You're going to execute something, and the idea is you're going to return something back to standard out. That's how we're going to parse it. Now, kind of a quick tip here too, if you happen to be using a language that's not Python, so we have native Python integration with the Python runner. If you have any other language and you can output JSON to the standard out, we will actually import that and parse it as if it were an object. So that allows you to really be flexible with what language you use, because it's pick your own language, whatever's most comfortable to you. Just get it into a machine-readable format. Okay. So now I've got this action. Okay. And I want this also to be available for users, right? I want a user to be able to query this thing as well. So in addition to an action, I would probably also need an alias. So let's create an alias. And I'm just going to grab this thing. Yes. I haven't made a point of this yet, but I think it's really important, is documentation is kind of a first-class citizen in all of our code, right? You notice there's a description here, there's parameters here, and all of our metadata has the ability to add descriptions associated with it. And when you do that at each layer, when you interface with the system, whether it's chat ops, whether it's the command line, whether it's the web UI, we're providing knowledge to the user about what they should expect to be putting in this field. Here's a reasonable default, here's some information about what's going there or what the action does, and here's what we're going to do about it. Now, I removed some of this stuff here, down here, because ACK is the acknowledgement that comes in from chat ops. Usually there's the ability to either provide context or not to jump to the web UI for a user. So this is really good for development or administrative types of commands where a user may want to know what the status of StackStorm is doing. You would keep that, you would not define this, or you would enable it as true. And what that'll do is it'll actually drop a link in your chat. Let's see if I can find one. Oh, I did one earlier, didn't I? It'll drop a link in your chat right here, and that will take you to a permalink of the actual web UI, so everybody can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so for editor, and then this result stuff, this is pretty neat. So by default, you'll just get the action output of the command. So if the action output is relatively simple and something you want, great. If not, you get access to the entire Jinja tool set to format and loop through output and format it how you want. And we can definitely go into some examples of that in a second as well. But let me just delete that. So that saves those things. Now I want to push these up to the system. So we've got three things here, right? I've got some metadata, I've got the script I want to associate, and I've got this chat ops. Okay? So let's save some things. I should name it something other than new action, I suppose. It's a really bad name. Okay. And alias is date. Okay. Check out, I've got the three things associated with it. So now at this point, I'm just pushing it up to GitHub, right? In some applications or in some use cases where I personally do this, I actually have it deploy pretty much in real time at this point, because the number of people using StackStorm is actually quite few. It's just me. So I don't have a problem with automatic deploy. But in this case, I'm actually working with a team of people on this, and so I need to be able to collaborate with them a little bit. And they need to know what I just did. So I'm actually going to come to my Slack room here. Okay, fine. Okay. 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 Thank you, Slack. Actually, I'm going to kind of alias workflow that we created to assist in the rapid deployment of this specific GitHub repository. It's a kind of shortcut for folks. Branch something, I called it the date command. So now at this point, it's going to go download the Git repository, push down the new code, reprovision the pack, make sure everything's loaded, restart StackStorm, and then let me know that everything's good. Assuming that the demo gods are on my side today, of course. Well, it said it was successful, but it looks like something's up with my chat ops right now. Just real quick. To note here is we're actually using Qbot to communicate to StackStorm. The reason we did that is just to kind of help us out with chat integrations at this point. So each chat service has slightly different formatting, slightly different protocols to connect to it. And so we only have to deal with the one-to-one integration currently, where we talk to Qbot, Qbot deals with the interface to the chat client, and we move on from there. Long term, we're working on changing that so that we'll either have direct connections to specific APIs, and we're working with different chat providers to help us with that, so they're assisting us with that, and or working with different bot frameworks that maybe have different profiles in different organizations or better formatting support for different providers. So come back over here, let's just make sure that's good. Oh, I got this cool new date command. Oh, st2 flow with date. Not found. What did I? Script. st2 flow. So I hope that at least gives you the gist of it. Normally this works. Let me see real quick. We got a failure. What did I do wrong here? Has no attribute iter items. So I failed somewhere. I did not do this correctly. Entry point. Can I just do this? Assuming that I did, however, that's the general flow. And then those commands become available to the users. They can iterate. And then in the case of the ChatOps deployment, okay, I'm happy with it. They can actually just go ahead and redeploy from there. I did not like actually what I expected to there, and I need my users to have good work. Go back to master. So now you've got group collaboration where they're working on packs together. You've got mostly instantaneous feedback when demo gods are on your side. And then the ability or the amount of code is actually relatively minor. And so most of the time you're going to have these shell commands already, right? You're going to go into an environment that has some sort of shell command. They've done something. They've got some sort of automation. And so all you're going to be doing is importing and making sure you're parameterizing appropriately and providing same defaults for users. And in the cases where necessary, making it available via ChatOps. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Excellent. I apologize for this, the jitteriness there. This is our first lunch and learn, so thanks for sticking with me there.
No, actually, and considering the structure and the setup for this, James, I know there was no set kind of agenda format or presentation that you have, so we definitely appreciate you kind of walking us through at a high level some of the key moving pieces and some of the context.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a couple other pieces. I know there's this workflow engine, and I'm sad I can't get it working for you. There really is a wonderful workflow engine that I guess my demo environment is just not happy with today. But we do have a StackStorm Enterprise demo. You can get a 30-day trial for it, and the StackStorm flow really is amazing. Like I can't give it enough accolades, but it quite literally is. On the right side of the pane, you get the actions available to you. On the left side of the pane is the YAML that automatically gets generated from dragging and dropping elements onto the screen and tying them together. It's really cool and really powerful for folks who may be scared of, hey, I don't know YAML, I'm scared of programming, I don't know what's going on. You can still give them the power of this tool without them really needing to know what's going on underneath the hood, which, depending on your use case, may or may not be good, but the power's there.
I've seen it, James, and indeed it's really impressive.
I'm sorry?
I've seen the graphical editor, and
yes,
it's really impressive.
It's really good. It really is. So yeah, if you get an opportunity, I highly recommend it. Just play with it for a few minutes. I actually like to. I don't use it for authoring all that much, truthfully. I actually like writing my workflows. But what I find myself using it for more often than not is visualization. When you're looking at a YAML document, it looks linear, when in reality the logic that's in there is not, or could not be, or may not be. But you can even copy and paste or open up existing workflows in the workflow editor and get a graphical visualization of it. And that, in terms of collaboration, is actually really huge, being able to just quickly visualize what actually is happening without having to deref and deconstruct the workflow in your head.
So maybe the next question would be, at what time does an organization is mature enough to think of using StackStorm to automate? Would you say that you have to start with Ansible, Puppet, and then go to something like StackStorm? Or at what point do you feel some organization is mature enough to try it out?
Yeah, I think there's two answers I have to that, right? And it does depend on where the organization is kind of in their maturity, for sure, right? I think there is a valid argument to be made that if you are in greenfield environments, you can start with StackStorm right away. Right, you don't have any bad habits. You're basically starting from nothing, and you'll actually be leveraging existing kind of knowledge bases to get you going quicker, right? And that's our goal, is to get to the point where, at the very least, you may not have all the tools, but you can iterate safely and quickly, right? Now, there's the middle group where, okay, I've got some sort of automation, or I don't have any automation, and I'm not sure what to do with this, and I may not be mature for it. The appetite in those cases, we don't necessarily have when are you ready for it. We have a path, right? And that path very much follows the ChatOps flow of the world, where at the very least there are some users who need to get information from somebody else in the organization that they or a select few people are only able to do. And I know that's meta or abstract, but think about the sysadmin who's the only person who can provision a server, or the finance person who's the only person who knows how to query the HR database, or insert use case here. Those use cases become exposed as actions in the workflow or in ChatOps, so that they can then go and answer questions for themselves. And so in that sense, we don't say, are you ready? We encourage people along the path, and they naturally find themselves getting ready, because as they see their team and users becoming empowered by the ChatOps tools, I see you can do this, I see you can do that, I see that every time Sally or Bob executes the command, the same thing occurs. Why can't I do that? Can I do that? And the answer is always yes, resounding yes. Go do those things. So, the only there's always going to be your standard distribution of people in an org when it comes to automation, right? You're going to have 20% on one side, that 10 to 20% that are just all for it. You're going to have 10 to 20% that are totally going to be detractors forever and ever, no matter what you do. The target you want to go for is that 60%. And the 60%, I believe, is where you remove friction enough for them and make it easier for them to get things that they couldn't do before. And naturally, they'll start attracting to it.
Great answer.
Great. All right.
Maybe another question in terms of market share and penetration of StackStorm in the business. How can you describe a little bit how what's your market share now? How popular and how used is it?
Yeah, it's very new. We're actually kind of in our own little space right now, if you will. You know, there certainly are analog tools that exist out there, like, for example, Amazon Lambda exists, and that philosophically does very similar things: receive event, execute code, move on with life, right? Where we find ourselves being kind of differentiating ourselves is more or less in the we run on-prem, you're not beholden to a specific framework or stack. That's our game. And specifically with ChatOps, there's nobody that does ChatOps today, right? There's plenty of people that are talking about it. There's a few companies that have figured out their own homegrown solution. But in terms of that space, we're it. So we've kind of got an early lead here with folks that are starting to come out with like tools, right? Zapier is starting to get more into the workflow. We're seeing if this then that starting to encourage workflow. So the natural evolution of chain more than one thing together is coming. And in the server space specifically, automated troubleshooting and remediation, we're kind of flying solo right now, so it's a good time.
Great. All right, I think we're reaching the top of the hour. Doesn't seem to be a lot of more questions on our side. I know, Norm, you have something you want to add, or just give you a chance to ask some questions?
No questions.
All right.
Perfect. So with that, to you personally, James, a genuine merci beaucoup. So from your friends in Quebec and in Canada, I want to thank you for carving out the hour and giving us a great overview. It was a pretty interactive session, and I think we'll have a lot more questions that kind of stem out of that. So thanks for that. I'll make sure to thank Evan and Dimitri for directing us towards you, and you know, we didn't give you too hard of a time, so I'll make sure we relay that you did a great job for us. So thanks again.
Thank you.
A couple of little questions I had for you. One is, do you have a preferred picture? So if we announce this on our social media, do you want the serious picture James, which is on your LinkedIn profile, or do you want the more casual James that we're seeing in front of us now? I'll get my PR people to talk to your PR people, and we'll figure that out.
Yeah, I've got a thing I'll send you.
That's great. So again, thanks for that. Guys on the team, any other questions or comments or stuff that comes up later, feel free to direct it back towards me. I'll make myself the intermediary here to go back towards James and the team at StackStorm. We, as Amy mentioned, we got the opportunity to see your headquarters after the Cassandra Summit, and you know, those are relationships we've started, and we look forward to continuing. So today is part of that investment from your behalf, and I want to thank you again for that.
Excellent. Look forward to it. Definitely. If you guys play with it and have any questions, yeah, point them my way, point them at Rod, however we do it. We do have our StackStorm community channel. If you have or have not been part of that already, lots of folks in there beyond just StackStorm team, right? There's community folks in there solving real problems and helping each other out. So come join us. We won't bite hard.
Okay. And the last thing I wanted to mention was with our opportunity with the Canadian Technology Accelerator, we're going to be in California quite a bit. I'm going to mention this to both Evan and Dimitri. So if your travels brings you to the Bay Area, James, let me know. And if timing aligns, love to take you out for a cold pop and thank you in person for your time today.
Love it. Love it. Thanks for having me.
All right. If that's it, guys, thank you very much. Have a good afternoon, and we'll speak soon.
Cheers.
Thanks, James.